Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Power Up Podcast, episode number 11. I'm joined here with Greg FPS. What's up, Greg?
What's going on? How you doing?
Greg's my co-host, and we do this podcast every single Sunday. This Sunday, we got ourselves CODZombies HQ. What's going on, man?
Hey, it's good to be on here, guys.
Hey, so we're going to be talking a little bit about DLC 5 today. Everything that we know pretty much about DLC 5. It's no secret what's been out there. You know, we've seen what we interpret as a leak, and that comes from Markets Insider. And that's pretty much the leak that everybody in the world knows of right now and is talking about and is thinking as why DLC 5 is looking pretty realistic. It was 3 or 4 days before April Fool's, so it's not an April Fool's joke. This is actual material. And so some of the things that we're going to be covering today are things of interest. I guess we have quite a few topics, 5 topics. And the first one, if I can ask you, are you a believer?
I would say that I haven't officially given a straightforward opinion on my channel as to my opinion on DLC 5, and I think that opinion is I'm agnostic towards it. Meaning we can't know either way right now. There's no definitive evidence on either side to say yay or nay to the concept. I'm right in the middle, staying neutral on the topic for now.
Nice. I think that's a safe spot to stay, especially since Activision hasn't even acknowledged this leak yet. It just looks pretty promising, but Activision still hasn't acknowledged it, or Treyarch. So, and they haven't disproven it. So I think that's a good position to stay in as well.
The thing is it really a leak though, right? Leak would imply that it was something that was supposed to be kept private but released to the public. Mm-hmm. This was, you could say that it was, a private investors analyst report on Activision, but it was something that was ultimately made available to the public via Market Insider, and I believe Greg Hoffman was the article, or the author of the article that kind of wrote about this and included the picture. Mm-hmm. It seems to me that it's not so much a leak, but just the opinion of a large investment banking firm as to what they think will be released by Activision in 2017.
Yeah, or just a projection.
A projection, or we discount the possibility that within that little post, they call it a DLC map pack, right? Mm-hmm. Within the little asterisks at the bottom, they do say that this is content that has been announced by Activision to date in that 2017 column. Well, DLC 5 hasn't been announced by Activision. What they have announced is future content for Black Ops 3, and we've seen that in the form of these new weapon drop, supply drop content within that game. Mm-hmm. There's a good chance that they're just miscategorizing those supply drops content as a map pack. I think that's a very good chance.
The one thing I got to say about that is that it's such a big thing to add in, and since people are investing real money into this idea because it's actually listed, I mean, that constitutes fraud, misleading your shareholders on such a big topic that DLC 5 could be real. So this guy could be in trouble potentially for doing that, or I don't know, it's kind of an interesting thing because that's a big website.
It depends on how you define a DLC pack, right? If a DLC pack is a map, it's different from an expansion pack or a map pack, right? You could make the argument that supply drop content is downloadable content. It's a pack of 2 weapons, therefore it constitutes a DLC pack, right? So I don't know if there's so much of misleading there, but I do understand your point that they have to be exact with their wording in order to determine future value of Activision in 2017.
Yeah, it's just a big thing to put in. So I mean, I'm with you. I'm a little skeptical. I think it's good to be optimistic.
I mean, and look, if you are a believer in DLC 5, if you say, well, I think it's going to happen, and this kind of points towards it, this is, from my perspective, if you take that affirmative position, it is the best evidence so far you have to point towards a DLC 5 that says a large investment banking firm clearly states that something more is coming, or they believe something more is coming. How they know that? They could be getting inside information from Activision, which would then promote them to invest in Activision to their clients, right? So I think if you are a believer, this is probably one of the best pieces of evidence to point to.
Nice. What do you think, Greg?
Yeah, I would definitely agree with what Zombies HQ said about like the best definitive evidence so far. But at the same time, I mean, I am drawing my conclusion of the fact that I think there is going to be one just from other things as well, which I know we're going to get into this podcast. I mean, loading screens are a big thing. There's so many unanswered questions, all that stuff, which I guess would lead us to the next topic, which is why is Peter McCain there, and is he killed in action in this new universe on Garage?
Yeah.
It's
that Revelations trailer. Do you guys know what trailer that actually was? It was a specific trailer because it took me a while to actually find it when I was looking back through it. And I believe
it's only there for a split second, too. It's just one
like
scene and he's gone.
Or something.
Yep.
Yeah. The duration is 2 minutes 35 seconds, and all I have it as is Peter McCain trailer. So I don't know. You'd have to find it, but 2 minutes and 35 seconds is how long the trailer is. And
I heard an interesting theory about that recently. Because McCain was at Verrückt at a certain time in the Zombies storyline, when Monty somehow transferred Verrückt to be smushed together in Revelations, it also transferred Peter McCain to the map as well.
Oh, that's interesting.
It's an interesting theory. There hasn't been anything to prove it, right? But
that's interesting. I never thought of it.
And I mean, it's a different dimension.
I thought that was just the world's bleeding. I didn't think Monty had any play in making the map.
It might have been that too. It might have been that too, right? It might not have been Monty at all.
Yeah, I mean, because he's dead in Shino Numa as well. But then again, that is the old storyline. So, and then we see his hand all the way up to Buried, right? Or is it on Buried? I don't remember. It's on Die Rise. I know that. But Peter McCain's hand, because when he's hanging in Shino Numa, he doesn't have a hand. So everyone thinks it's the power switch. That's why the hand's there.
I was on Die Rise when I noticed it on there. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's also one of the parts that you have to build on Transit.
Mm-hmm.
It could be it's just one of those things that they wanted to talk about, but they're keeping it open-ended, maybe for a future game, maybe just because they're Treyarch and they want to keep us excited over nothing in the future. Or it could have been part of some kind of cut content within Revelations we know there is a whole lot.
Yeah.
I can't prove this, but I think Peter McCain at some point dies in every storyline. Like, I think he's Kenny from South Park.
It's a meme. Peter McCain is a meme.
I have started to believe that he is the more I do research on him. And I'm not sure because he falls by parachute a lot, and then we see him in Go Rod Karavi, and we're like, really? He's falling with a parachute again. There goes
I thought
Peter
that was
McCain.
a really cool thing that they did though. Like, everyone was so hyped. I remember watching Milo's reaction, and he just was like, Peter McCain. Oh my gosh, Peter McCain.
But you see what I mean? I think he's like Kenny. He ends up dying somehow.
Dude, I really like that. That is cool.
He's in every dimension.
Yeah, I would have loved to get a cipher because we got a bunch of information about other people, like the Zetsubou cipher about Brock and Gary dying. It's the one in the spawn room where they like the famous explorers got in a plane crash. And then like Sarah Michelle Gellar is on what's it called? I can't think of it. Shangri-La area of Revelations, and she's talking about how she was brought into the jungle, and it's just like there's so much information, man.
Robert McNamara within the DE room in Revelations.
Yeah, how did she get there? I'm still curious about that. Was it when the worlds converged?
I think so.
Is that when she got trapped on Shangri-La?
Yeah.
And now, because Shangri-La is one of the maps stuck in time, she could be there until, I don't know, Richtofen goes back.
But I don't know, about Peter McCain, it could just be, like I said, one of those weird characters that they just didn't wrap up for whatever reason, which it seems odd because they did that with so many other characters, like we mentioned, right? Mm-hmm. There should have been something in there about him. Or it could just be, like Grizz said, it's a freaking meme.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
An
must.
interesting thing: the guy who did the voice for Robert McNamara is the Shadow Man.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Huh.
I love that McNamara voice. He does it pretty good.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so now we can talk about the new loading screens because obviously there is a lot of stuff going on there with the comic. We're supposed to be getting a new comic, I think, within the next 2 weeks. I think 2 weeks from this Wednesday, which is really interesting. We also got the preview a little bit a while, 2 days ago, I think, on Sunday or something.
Yep.
So I'm kind of interested to see what the new loading screen is going to be in that comic. Do you guys have any projections of what you think or would like to see?
Mob of the Dead.
We just got one.
I want a better one.
A second
I want a better one, and I want it to have blood vials in it. Maybe Richtofen holding them against the wall with an IV or something. Something wicked.
That's crazy.
I think right now we can kind of theorize what will be included in it, right? And the general theory with these loading screens, from what I've seen, is that what they're doing is something called a retcon. They are rewriting the stories of past games to fit with the narrative they've created or pushed themselves into in Black Ops 3. That's why we see the inclusion of Monty in these old maps, and that's why we see elements that we can recognize in our current storyline that weren't there before because they weren't created and didn't think they were going in this direction. So something involving changing the story from past maps to fit with our current story seems likely.
Yes, and Jason Blundell in an interview with Milo did say that they were canon. So, it is confirming that it is rewriting the story in a sense. But I have no idea what map they would do. To go along with the DLC 5 prediction, I think a lot of people want Origins. But then again, I don't really see them redoing it. The only thing that they could do is maybe do the Primus crew in the Great War from back then. As that, I don't see, if they were to do Origins, they wouldn't, do the same thing that we saw on the actual Origins map. So, it's interesting stuff, for sure.
So, the Ascension loading screen, and we see Monty writing down something with a quill. I think he's signing his name is what I think he's doing on the bottom of the pieced together image we got from the Giant, which we think is a hexagonal sphere. Potentially the summoning key, but we don't know why there's a KN-44 in the middle of it. And what I think is happening with that is that is a lead to something bigger that isn't incorporated into the game. We've seen things in Shadows of Evil pop up lately. We saw the second set of the Apothecary Servant show up under the map, and no reasoning behind this. It just happened. And
well, it's always been there since the release of the game. We just kind of brought it to the fore again recently.
I didn't see it when I went down there. I went down there a few times, and it would be gone. You could only see one version down there.
You can only see it on PC, I believe. It doesn't work on console when I tried it.
Okay, that would be why then. Okay. And it's just interesting to me why there's these gaps, and I think the KN-44 is an Easter egg that could be put in if there was a DLC 5. And I'm not sure why this picture exists because we don't have a reason behind it. And that's the blue picture I'm talking about from the Giant that was pieced together with the KN-44. There's no reason behind it. We always thought it'd be
something, right? I remember throughout Black Ops 3, it's always, the KN-44 Easter egg. What's it going to be? Something special about the KN-44. Guys, we got to find out what it is. Yeah. It was featured in this image, and the Giant obviously relates to Dr. Monty. We got to figure it out. Nothing ever happened to it.
Yeah, and do you remember it flying out of, the rocket ship when Dempsey lands?
Yeah.
And also it was underneath the Void Bow thing as well.
It could just be because the KN-44, I believe, is the default weapon in Black Ops 3. Sometimes when you see zombies glitch out, they'll have suddenly spawn a KN-44 and die. The plants on Zetsubou, under the killer plants, underneath them, they have a KN-44 that they use as a mechanism to kill the zombies once it's in the plant, as some kind of game mechanism, right? So it's this Maybe it's just referencing that cutesy kind of, hey, look, it's, the KN-44, it's the default weapon, it's in this kind of cube that might look like it's in Radiant. It could just be something like that. It could just be the KN-44 has no meaning, it's just a placeholder. There's so many answered questions associated with it.
The Civil Protector also has the KN-44 as well.
Yeah, that's true.
That's true. It makes me think that the KN-44 is a special weapon, and that weapon's bullets are the only bullets that can actually pull this trigger off, wherever it be, and if it's in every map or not. Maybe that's the impossible Easter egg Jason Blundell was talking about.
I feel like people have tried that enough
I
already.
know, and that's the disheartening thing too, is how many people are out there doing this every day and still nothing. Still nothing.
And with the recent Radiant leaks of all of the Black Ops 3 Zombies maps, I think it's pretty much only a matter of time before people comb through the maps enough to find out any kind of trigger that we might have missed that exists on Radiant that we haven't found in game. And if they haven't, then it kind of looks less likely that there'll be some kind of substantive Easter egg within the maps. Right? Obviously, you can't find out any visual Easter eggs like some kind of cipher or things like that, something with having to do with various texture files. But you can find out anything that has to do with a trigger in the map. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see and let the diggers do their work.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's all in their free time too. It's just like we make videos in our free time, they do that in their free time, and they can take as long as they want. So it could be a long process when we think about it. Or it could be a fast process if they're really good at it, but the benefit is just shock and awe of telling all of us, so it's kind of up to their discretion how fast they go.
Yeah, the amount that we've learned about the Cocoon Easter egg and various other Easter eggs in Shadows of Evil over the past 2 weeks have been quite astounding. I've made more progress and more discussion about Shadows of Evil at any time since the map's release, maybe like 2 or 3 months later. Like after that point, it's spiked in Shadows of Evil discussion again for some odd reason, right? So it's true. I mean, these Radiant map leaks, once we start finding things out about them, it sparks discussion again, and it gets people searching.
True.
Yeah.
So true. So we kind of already talked about the Business Insider leak. We could talk a little bit more about remastered maps. I mean, there's a lot to talk about when it comes to I put Revelations 2.0 in there because if there's a DLC 5, the Revelations we know of will be different. Should be different. It shouldn't be the same map, I don't think.
There's also a team of custom map creators making one for mod tools as well.
Nice.
Revelations 2.0?
Yeah, and it's actually going to have all the maps.
Nice.
I have a suspicion that Cornrow Wallace was working on DLC 5. Can't prove it, but I think he took some time off after Meadow, and now he's back. And so I don't know, maybe, just a thought I had. But the custom guys are good. You know, they're just as good as these Treyarch guys. If they wanted to spend 3 years in a development cycle to make their maps, I'm sure we'd have great products, just like we're seeing. So I'm digging mod tools.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things, right? Like, we can see the amazing products that these mappers and modders create with a fairly small team that, aren't professional. They do it in their free time. Like Kriyasu, which I believe is a new Zeroy map, it is Treyarch quality, especially in its visuals. It is absolutely fantastic, right? And it's one of those things, like, how long does it take to make a zombies map at Treyarch, right? We know that Revelations was completed by the time Gorod Krovi released. So they were able to fit their whole DLC season in between the time Shadows released and then when Gorod Krovi released. The question that was on everybody's mind at the time is, well, what are they working on now? Are they working on their next game and they just completed it several months early to get that little bit of head start, or what are they working on? That's where the whole discussion about, well, could be more maps for Zombies Only Map Pack DLC 4 was kind of sparked, if you guys remember that back in the day. But yeah, those are one of the questions that we haven't seen answered yet, is what is Treyarch working on since they finished the DLC for Black Ops 3's DLC season early?
Yeah, we can't forget that, we've always had this one more DLC thing since World at War. You know, we had 3, and then we wanted a 4th one. We never got it. That's the one that Kino was supposed to be in, because we, you know, it's one of those things, like, we've always wanted another map pack after it.
And this is, I was listening to the Smith Squad's podcast, his very first episode for a little bit the other day, and this is exactly the topic that they were talking about. He was saying, guys, I think that they're going to release DLC 5 for Black Ops 2 because of these 2 reasons. One, Ghosts isn't doing so well. People really dislike Ghosts. They could make a lot of money, Activision could, by releasing a DLC 5 for Black Ops 2. It would recoup some of the losses they would make, or that they haven't made from Ghosts. Secondly, it seems like Treyarch is releasing new content for Black Ops 2. In April of that year, the year following Black Ops 2 was released, or I guess 2 years later technically, they were releasing camos, new camos for Black Ops 2 weapons. And he was saying, well, look, this is new stuff that hasn't been done before in Call of Duty. You know, that could just signal something more to come in the future. So we're using the same things to talk about DLC 5 and Black Ops 3. Infinite Warfare is doing crap, they could make a whole lot more money by doing a DLC 5 in Black Ops 3. Same argument made before, didn't happen. New content being uploaded in created in Black Ops 3 via supply drops. Basically same thing as before, didn't happen. So it's one of those things that when people say that we've had this discussion before, we have. And I think the biggest thing when talking about DLC 5 is you have to discuss, well, why is this time different? That is the biggest thing here.
I think it's the console jump. It's definitely the console jump.
I'm gonna play the reason it's different right now. I got it right now. The Treyarch teaser from Jason Blundell really speaks a lot of volume.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
I thought that might be a question, and obviously a lot of speculation and talk, and so I've got an official statement I'd like to read to you.
Okay.
I'm afraid that I can't say anything right now.
Is there anything else you'd like to say after he announced the Dr. Monty, or no, what is it? Newton's Cookbook. He already introduced that, and this is what he had to say after that. So that is a teaser to something else coming, but he's addressing the zombies community.
Yeah, I think that as well. If you are a believer in DLC 5, that is one of the more official kind of confirmations of something more relating to zombies coming in 2017, right? Mm-hmm. If you don't believe it, you could just say, well, he's just talking about the next game. Yeah. But within that discussion, we do have to say we don't know what kind of content is coming to zombies in 2017. I think I would go on a limb and say I think we are going to get something new relating to zombies in 2017 in Black Ops 3.
God, that's exciting.
But yeah. I think it's much more likely that we're going to get some kind of feature involving microtransactions, something related to Newton's Cookbook, maybe some new kind of gobblegum, something like that, rather than a new full-on map pack. So if we did get the features relating to like a new gobblegums or something like that, it would still make Jason Blundell's comment, true, right? So okay. I see the map pack option as the least likely, or one of the least likely alternatives at this point.
I see what you're saying, and I'm thinking game modes, a big game mode package. Do you think that's possible?
I don't think a big game mode package. It could be they're testing something out for the next round. I know Jason Blundell has said he's wanted to try new game modes in the past. They tried in Black Ops 2, didn't really, have that player base that he wanted in comparison with Survival, and he hasn't found that right mix to really implement it into the game yet. Well, it could be that they're going to use Black Ops 3 Zombies as a little bit of a testing ground for their next game to determine what the right mode is. But again, that's just it's a possibility, right?
I've been saying it for a while now. They need to do Grief with the mob characters versus the Origin Screw. He's so cool. Sick, man.
That would be sick.
You need to kill the Mob of the Dead crew to get their blood vials and whatnot. But I wanted to talk about something really quick because I was at COD XP and I went to the zombie panel, and Jason Blundell and Craig Houston were talking about, Craig Houston's the one that does like the story of zombies along with like Jason Blundell, and they said that they were going back to the studio to start working on continuing the story. They literally said that word for word. like right after.
They didn't let
that
anything slip.
panel. And they didn't say anything, but like, and that was right before Revelations came out. So, I mean,
well,
story.
It could be that they're talking about writing for the comics. It could be that they're talking about writing for the next game, right? I mean, it doesn't have to be DLC 5, but you're right. It's always one of those possibility things, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, comics throwing me for a loop. It's throwing me for a loop,
I think
especially
ultimately,
with DLC 5.
In terms of my channel, in terms of my interest in zombies, keeping that up, I want nothing more than DLC 5 to happen. I think that if they release DLC 5, it will keep the community interested and hyped at those normal, exciting Black Ops 3 levels until Sledgehammer Zombies releases. Get us through what people consider to be a downtime when a majority of the zombies community that was here in Black Ops 3 has left during IW. It'll get them back in the fold. It'll get them excited for zombies again and excited to see what Sledgehammer has to release later this year. So I want nothing more for DLC 5 to happen. I think it'll last us a good while in terms of content, even though it might just be remakes in the form of remastered. But I'm very, very skeptical. And like I said, I maintain a neutral position of whether or not it'll happen. But just speaking on that, I do find it interesting that a lot of the big zombies YouTubers have gone on record saying it will happen. TGR, beginning with TGR, then Glitching Queen. Mr. Dalek JD is in a weird position with that, but The Smith Plays, Lex, Noah J456, all these big guys, huge, biggest basically content creators, influencers in the zombies community have said, I think it'll happen sometime this year. So it's very weird, right? I don't think there's been this much consensus amongst influencers and amongst YouTubers in a very long time.
Yeah. 100%.
I've seen the whole other side of that whole thing, and it's funny. Oh man.
What do you mean the other side?
Like I know the sources of the leaks and whatnot.
Yeah, no, it's just there's a lot of. We're not going to talk about that. But it's
I know.
It is a weird situation from what I know.
Well, I was watching Prestige's Keys video yesterday, and he was talking a lot about how the hype for DLC 2 just isn't there like it should be. And part of the reason was because of World War II being a thing that this coming Call of Duty. And since a majority of the people already believe that in their head, they're just excited for that to come out because they think Infinite Warfare just isn't performing. And it is to a smaller extent. You know, it's successful to a smaller extent. Treyarch Zombies, of course, blew it out the park. But the greater majority of people out there that don't like this Call of Duty is waiting for that next game. So DLC 2 it's not even on the map right now. And that's where Prestige's Keys thought process is. And I found that interesting because he's one of the bigger influencers out there for Call of Duty right now.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry. No,
I was just gonna say, like, I've been posting stuff on Twitter. People already thought the map was released, like the new Zombies map challenge.
Really?
Like they don't even people are just unaware completely. Like people didn't even know a trailer came out. Like people just don't care enough.
What's the view count on that trailer?
Last time I checked, it was at 350,000 or something like that. I can check. I'll pull it up.
And it's one of those things, right, where, you know, Prestige's Key was also talking about in a Twitter video he did. I think you retweeted this, Grizz, and that's the only reason I saw it. But he was just saying, you know, he really likes Infinite Warfare. He put the time into it. He's burnt out on it right now, but it's very discouraging to see the negativity in the comment sections whenever he posts something related to Infinite Warfare. Yeah. And I think that's something all of us have experienced. It's something, especially in the zombies community, we've experienced. If you upload a video about Infinite Warfare, if it's in the title, in the thumbnail, your top comment 100 out of 100 times is going to be, IW Zombie sucks, this game sucks, I can't wait for Treyarch 2018, right? That's the... Most of the time, that's going to be your top comment. The full comment section is going to be decrying IW Zombies. It's demotivating to see. Furthermore, the video is going to do a lot less in terms of viewer count and engagement because just less people are interested in the topic in the first place.
Yeah, I'll notice,
the video, by the way, has 376,000 views
Ouch.
14,000 likes and 6,000 dislikes.
That's not great.
Yeah, I mean,
14,000 likes and 6,000 dislikes?
Yeah.
Jeez.
I mean, a NoJ456 stream probably on a Saturday gets more views than the trailer did.
That's so true. Oh, that's... Wow. And you would think that big channels like Call of Duty would blow up, you know, like huge numbers, like in the millions per day, but...
Now that's not to say, because I'm sure if you look at the other videos that are released about that trailer, NoJ456, Mr. Dalek JD, all the other Big Zombies YouTubers re-uploaded that exact trailer just in its regular form. So, I mean, and I really don't really like that. I can see why they do it. It's easy freaking money, but it's really like... It's about who you know if you do that. You have to know somebody on the inside that'll get that claim removed in order for you to make money off that.
Raven the Redwoods has 705,000.
Okay.
Yeah.
So pretty much double.
Yeah, true. I mean, it is like
that's over a period of time, but still, I mean, comparatively to other maps, you know.
I was talking about with Mr. Dalek JD on Twitter a little bit about this, and he was saying that, you know, when Spaceland came out, people still had confidence in the series. There was still a lot of hype. Viewership for Spaceland, especially at the beginning, was very good. People were interested in it. It kind of went down as time progressed. Rave had sparked up a little bit in January, and then since the release, it's just plummeted, man. So, I mean, it's just the interest has ebbed and flowed, and it's just going downhill in terms of, for what I've seen, in terms of people's perception on the mode and their willingness to watch content about it, right?
To give a perspective,
Garad has 2.7 million.
Really?
There's a big difference there.
I was just going to point out Revelations as 2.1 million for their prologue trailer, and that's saying how big the Zombies community is out there. It's huge. And people just aren't as interested this time around. But I think the hype is going to be real, especially if a DLC 5 hits, but more importantly for 2017 Zombies for Sledgehammer.
Yeah, Mr. T Lexus made a comment on Twitter recently where he said, "You guys think it's bad now with DLC 2 hype, wait until next year." And I replied to that comment saying, you know, I gotta disagree with you. I actually have more confidence in Sledgehammer Zombies than I do in IW Zombies in terms of the community's perception to it. So I think I got a bit of support for that. So I agree with you.
They have a lesson
very
already.
Excited for Sledgehammer, man.
They have something to learn from and advance from. Exo Zombies was a hit and a miss at the same time.
They had really good Easter eggs, though. And that's why I'm hopeful for the next Sledgehammer game, because the Exo Zombies it wasn't fun, but the Easter eggs were still like kind of a challenge.
And they were insane. They were difficult. Some of them.
Yeah, some of them. I mean, it would get solved in a day or so, but I mean, still, their first go around wasn't as slow as like 6 hours.
But think about what we got
the later
now.
maps. People really like the AW Easter eggs, right?
Yeah.
The later maps people really enjoy, and I think that what it comes down to is what the two main elements that Treyarch has nailed over and over again is that mix between gameplay and general feel, right? AW didn't really do that great on the gameplay perspective. People really didn't like the what is it, Spark Zombies? I forgot what they're called, but the ones that destroy your exosuit abilities. They didn't really like the way it felt with the boost jumping and stuff.
EMZ or whatever.
Yeah, those EMP zombies. That's what it's called. But they did get the feel right. It felt pretty neat and unique, and the Easter eggs were pretty good. And now in terms of IW, the gameplay's good, right? It's the opposite. I think the gameplay in IW Zombies is really great. It feels different than Treyarch. It does feel unique and fresh. What people really, really dislike, and I'm in this boat about IW Zombies, is the tone and the theme of the mode. The tone is silly and like kind of just wacky, and the theme has switched from conflict to culture. And that's the thing that people really don't like.
They literally have a chance right now to totally change that and make a good Easter egg for this map, because if they do make a good Easter egg and people enjoy it and people are seeing, you know, the big influencers, Noah, Dalek Pizza, all those people watching, they're going to be watching that. If they see that the Easter egg is actually good, they might have a chance of picking up, DLC 3, DLC 4, because they might be better now. And it could have just been a thing where Infinity Ward made, Raven the Redwoods like pretty much in their development cycle, and they weren't really focusing super hard on Easter eggs because they thought that they needed to nail the gameplay. And that now that they're realizing what the issue is, maybe they're gonna fix that. And I'm hoping they do for this map and the maps to come as well.
Well, Greg, let me point this out. We had a huge change from Zombies in Spaceland to Raven the Redwoods, so we know it's 100% possible for them to do that. The starting weapons are a prime example. We started with the Kindle 44 in Zombies in Spaceland. In Raven the Redwoods, they decided let's switch it up and just do melees. And so they do have things that are drastically changing. The issue I see is the level of difficulty with the Easter egg. You got 3 main steps and you're to the boss round. And that's for both maps.
And it's like shooting arms. Like, who cares? People just want to kill zombies, not shoot arms off to do a step of the Easter egg. I mean, and like they just, they didn't implement things well. Those melee weapons in the starting room, you only get 60 points a kill instead of 130. Like, what's up with that?
So my question to both of you guys is this. Do you think Activision's going for more of a feel, or like the cycles, the 3-year cycles that we're going in? We're going for a way less harder zombies mode with Infinite Warfare. We're going with Treyarch with a more advanced storyline and gameplay as well. And then 3 different storylines with certain difficulties. And they're just trying to hit the storyline factor, at least so they're solid right now.
That's an interesting idea. Like,
going.
Yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting idea. I'm not so sure. I think it's more so just based on what the studio feels like they want to do for a zombies mode. But it's definitely a neat idea of switching up the kind of zombie from studio to studio. I don't know how successful that's going to be, and I think IW is a primary example of how you go from a very serious story to a very silly story, and people freaking hate the silly story. They feel like their intelligence is being insulted after coming from Black Ops 3 story.
Yeah. And they could also be testing it out for other games in the future as well. Like, maybe Activision was like, hey, we need you to try this out and see if it works, because maybe we're going to do it with another game, They could just be. It seems like they're the guinea pigs, man. Like,
I don't know. I feel like the story and stuff theme for IW is Infinity Ward's doing. It's Brian Bright and Lee Ross and what they enjoyed and what they think would make a good mode. I don't think Activision had really any part in telling them what theme or how it should feel within the game. Just that it has to be a zombies mode.
For sure. I think what Treyarch is doing so well is they're continuing a story from title to title. And because they're doing that, and we haven't been seeing that with the other studios, we get a whole new experience, and we got a whole new storyline, and they don't know if it's going to be a hit or a miss. And so, like Greg was saying, they're trying different things to see where they can continue, because I think that's the big question: is where do they continue?
Well, and ultimately, it's one of the. I wanted to make a video about this, and I still might. It's lessons from Infinite Warfare Zombies, right? What's something that future developers of Zombies mode can pick out from the, I think it's fair to call it a general failure in terms of community's perception towards the mode about Infinite Warfare Zombies. One has to be the tone and theme of the mode. People don't like this silly, non-serious theme. Or serious tone. They just don't like that. It doesn't resonate as better or as well as a serious tone does. Secondly is the theme. People don't really like the theme of culture. They like themes of conflict, of war, of grittiness in their modes, rather than these really lighthearted themes. So I think taking lessons away from IW, those two things should continue on in the future with better reception if they're implemented.
So the one thing left for DLC 5 would be the Great War, because we've already known about the Great Battle, but what's going on? No, is it the other way around? No, it's the Great War that is yet to come, that we only saw the ending to in Revelations with the cutscene with the stabs, but we don't know how that came to be exactly, and I think that would be a great gameplay point for them to explore for DLC 5.
Yeah, and they still have the mural on Shadows as well that we got, which showed a fight, but we never saw it.
And that's the one, yeah, because the Great Battle, I think it is the Great War was the Apothicons versus the Keepers, and the Great Battle was the fight between our heroes and the Apothicons.
There's also that fight, at Derisendrach or near Derisendrach?
Yeah, that they said. I think it was it Pablo or Marianas or something? People thought that he was the knight, maybe not, or the king. But yeah, there was that fight that said that they needed to build the castle in a specific area, and that was a cipher on Garad, I think.
Yeah. I think it's one of those things too that if you are a believer in DLC 5, you can see how they would remake certain maps to fit with the current storyline, right? You can see Origins being remade in the time period we see at the end of the Revelations cutscene with a very similar layout, but a different, basically, setting, right? It's just set in a different time period.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you are a believer, you can see how they'd adapt the maps to kind of retcon the story and make it a little bit more interesting than just straight up remasters, and instead turn them into the giant-like remakes.
Yeah, and if you look in the back of the cutscene, don't you see somewhat of like an origin structure in the way background? So it's so interesting. It's so interesting how that could totally be a thing if they just went with it.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things, right, where this isn't really evidence. It's us just fitting pieces into a puzzle that doesn't really exist.
So true.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I hate to cut it short, but I actually have to go and finish packing.
Awesome.
So,
this is a great episode.
Yeah, my dad was like, hurry up. So,
Where are you going, Greg?
I'm just going on a trip for a couple days. So,
okay.
Yeah, so I'm really sorry, guys, but yeah, I gotta go.
It's all good.
Cool, brother.
Thanks for being here, Greg. And HQ, thanks for stopping by. It was nice meeting you, man.
Hey, you guys as well. Good talk.
Awesome. This has been episode 11, and we'll be back next week with another guest. So we'll see you guys then.
Peace.
Bye.